Welcome, dear Mark Ronson. Welcome to Babylon.
Ciao.
How you doing?
Good.
You look amazing, man.
Thanks. I'm tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, your wonderful haircut still remains like the proper way, the best look you have.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So you basically like in Italy for a massive promo tour. You have two amazing singles out right now, and a record that is doing really great.
Yeah. It's really. I mean, listen. I know the history of music, and Italians have always embraced funk and soul music from America, definitely. But it's been amazing how well the song is done over here, and it's really cool.
I read that you said that this album has a few inspirations from different kind of eras and ages. I mean, you said that it's mostly inspired by the 90s, the late 90s. But I feel there's a lot of James Brown in it as well.
Well, I think what I meant was when I said inspired by the 90s was that's when I started DJing in clubs in New York. And I became a DJ because I loved hip-hop music. I wanted 2 turntables. I wanted to cut records back and forth. And from... that era of hip-hop, Biggie, Wu-Tang, Tribe Called Quest, I learned about the funk, soul, jazz records because they sampled them. So I got more and more into funk and soul and things like the Meters and obviously James Brown. But when I started DJing clubs in New York in the 90s, there was definitely you would play the peak hours of the night. You play hip hop, but you had to be able to play 2 hours of funk, soul, disco to build the night, and you learn about that music, and you had to know your history, and that's always been my favorite music, Earth, Wind and Fire, and that stuff. It stayed with me. 20 years later, it's still the stuff that I find most enriching, fulfilling.
All right, it seems like a great period, for that kind of stuff, funk. And hip-hop as well, they are in a great shape. I mean, have you heard, you said that you were inspired by the Wu-Tang and all that kind of stuff that were rising in the 90s. Have you heard the latest Wu-Tang album?
Is the one that there's only one copy, that one that's locked in a vault?
All right, so are you spending the $55 million that need, or billions, I guess? I don't know how much money you need to buy it.
I think I'm trying to collect some money from my friends to see if we can raise $55 million.
All right, to buy it.
I think it would be easy to get a pizza. But
all right, definitely. But have you heard the latest singles? I mean, Family Reunion and all the new albums from Ghostface Killah and Raekwon as well.
I will always have an extreme soft spot for that. Ghostface Killah will always be one of my favorite voices. That sentiment, the style, where we went to record the album in Memphis at Royal Studios, where they did Al Green and Ann Peebles and Syl Johnson, You could argue, the RZA sampled a lot of eras of music, but you could definitely argue that the Stax and the Memphis sound, and certainly the High Record sound, was one of the most influential on him. So all the musicians that I work with from New York that are young kids that grew up on Wu-Tang and the Meters, the kids that played on Amy Winehouse Back to Black album, when we all went to Memphis, we all felt like this kind of almost spiritual feeling to be in the building that not only made some of our favorite soul records, but influenced all our favorite hip-hop records as well. So I will always have, anytime there's a new Wu-Tang record, I'll always pick it up anyway, just because it's like, that's my background, All right. But after your first record in 2003, it was a hip-hop record. Then you made very different records. Is it planned, or you just come up with a new sound what thrills you now, and so there you go? I think what happened was my second album, I was still DJing in clubs, but I was, starting to play more rock and indie stuff. But, I couldn't go on at a hip-hop club and play a song by Radiohead like Just, or someone would throw a bottle at the DJ booth. And literally, that's happened before. So
really? It happened?
The clubs that I used to DJ at in New York, you had kind of had a lot of different people, but you'd always have thugs and drug dealers and some guy spending thousands of dollars to impress some girls, and you play something that his girl's like, ew, what's that? And he's gonna come over to the booth. All right. But I wanted to play those songs. That kind of, James Murphy, shut up and play the hits attitude. I wanted to play these Radiohead songs, so what I did was I made versions that I thought that I could play in my club that had more of a groove. I think, by the time Amy's album came out and Back to Black, and that was the first thing that I did that I became really known for. I think a lot of people wanted me to make records for them that sounded like that. That was kind of like soul and funk and R&B, but I had already been doing it for 10 years. So ironically, the minute I was successful with it for the first time, I was a little bit tired of it. So this is the record on this album, Uptown Special, where I feel like I've kind of gone back to the things that maybe that I'm the best at, or that I understand the most.
All right. Which is the best one you have in the album?
As a human being?
Yeah.
As a kind man and lover? I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say because all these people are kind of amazing in their own right. I mean, the fact that someone like Kevin from Tame Impala, who's, you know, arguably in the coolest, biggest indie rock band in the world, and Bruno Mars, the most successful, you know, male pop star around and so talented, the fact that they would all come down to Memphis, you know, like in the middle of like their touring, their life, whatever they're doing, to come and make music and be a part of this record, it makes, I feel like I owe a debt to all of them, you know. I couldn't say that one of them is better than another, you know. I love, you know, Jeff Basker, who I produced and wrote this record with. We became very close. Andrew Wyatt from Mike Snow, who I've worked with for a long time. He's a great friend, but it's hard to say which one.
All right. So let's start with the track list. So if you would pick like a song that is like representative for the album, I mean, which one would you pick up?
Maybe the most representative of the album. It would be hard to say because, you know, it does go a little bit from all the way the funk side of the mystical and uptown funk to some of the more, you know, musical Steely Dan things. But maybe I could pick the first song that I wrote that really started the whole album. So that song is called Summer Breaking with Kevin Parker from Tame Impala.
Which is a producer as well.
Yeah.
Have you got like together in the studio?
Yeah, we did. You know, we made all this stuff together in the studio. And basically, this was the first piece of music that I wrote on the album after having, you know, some writer's block for like a year and not having anything. First time I wrote a piece of music that I liked. And also, the mood of the music made me think that maybe the lyrics needed to be about something more interesting. So it gave me the idea to write a letter to Michael Chabon, my favorite author, to see if he would write lyrics for the album. And then as we kind of got the song to a certain point, that's when I started to think, oh man, Kevin would be so great singing this, you know, because I love Tame Impala. We played shows with him in Australia, and I just thought I'll send him the song and see if he likes it.
And he's a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Michael Chabon,
yeah,
the author,
it's like an all-star song. This one,
yeah, I think so. You know, he's an amazing. They're all amazing dudes. Got some good dudes on this album.
All right, yeah, it's a good dudes album. Michael is one of your favorite living writer right now, and I mean, what is like to be able like to call whoever to collaborate with you?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with like. Maybe it's a little different with this album because it's made me a little bit more well-known. But, you know, when I wrote a letter to Stevie Wonder to ask him to play harmonica on the album, he didn't know who I was. I don't think Michael sort of barely knew who I was. You know, it's not like I'm Pharrell or Daft Punk or something. So usually I feel like I have a good instinct for maybe people to work with. So if I write a letter to Michael Chabon and I tell him why I want to do some music with lyrics and stuff, it's maybe in a way that appeals to him. He understands why he wants to be a part of it. So, but you know, I do the same exact thing everybody else does. I just find somebody's email, sometimes illegal,
right. sometimes illegally, and I write them a nice letter. And I think people forget like what a good letter can do. Like no one bothers anymore. Everyone wants to write, you know, 140 characters or less. It's like the age we live in. But I think you just write something nice to somebody. Sometimes you get lucky. You know, the point is you can choose whoever you want to collaborate with for your songs. But you decided to pick up really, you know, up and coming good producers and singers, people that are just are not mainstream as, I mean, Stevie Wonder or Bruno Mars. You are still into the underground somehow. You listen to many records from the underground.
Of course. I'm a DJ, so like that's my whole. I mean, DJing has become an incredibly commercial sort of overground culture now, but not the DJing that I came from, not the DJing that made me want to play records. So yes, like, you know, producers like Hudson Mohawk or Teed or people like that, they're really exciting to me because that's the future of music. So, you know, those are the kind of people that I want contributing to my records. I want people that are doing the stuff that I'm not doing. You know, I'm kind of like analog. I love to record to tape with live musicianship and all this kind of stuff, and I want someone that's going to bring some, you know, crazy edge to it and something like that.
What's the, I mean, who's the producer you're listening most to right now?
Producer-wise, I mean, it probably Hudson Mohawk is one of the ones that I find the most exciting. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, there's definitely a few, but I'm drawing a blank right now. I mean, I know he's sort of commercial now, but I like Mike Will. Like, I like the stuff that he did for Ray Shrummer, and yeah, there's a lot of good producers.
Good. And I mean, you've been doing very different kind of stuff as a solo artist, but as a producer as well. You've been recording in the latest 5 years people like Paul McCartney and people like the Black Lips, and I mean, both they sound really fresh and good. Have you heard like the latest Kanye West features with Paul McCartney? Because like you produced one of the freshest track he released recently. I mean, new, and I mean then he came up with 3 singles with Kanye West. What do you think about those singles?
I went to see Kanye in concert last night, actually, and
in Paris.
In Paris,
wow.
He did a concert, and you know, to be honest, the only one. The first song that he put out with Paul McCartney, when I first came out, I didn't really get it, and then watching him perform it live was pretty great. And then even though Paul McCartney's only on a tiny bit of the new one all day,
yeah,
when it happens, it's really cool. I think that maybe out of all the collaborative ones so far is my favorite, just because it's like people forget because the Beatles are so big.
Yeah,
like the Beatles were one of the weirdest progressive things happening in their day, you know, like we just forget because the songs and the melodies are so good. But I feel like the one All Day, the way it's like just this hard trap beat the whole way through, and then all of a sudden Paul McCartney comes in with a little whistling and acoustic guitar, like that's what Paul McCartney would have done in 1966. Like that's the weirdness that I think that's why I find that song interesting.
Cool. Talking about legends, you started the album with Stevie Wonder, which we talked about before, but you closed the album as well with him, so it was kind of a tribute to his legend.
Well, I wanted to, when I was thinking of making this album, I really wanted it to have a bit of an arc, like some of my favorite records, and you know, people download tracks individually or they stream on Spotify, and there's so few reasons for people to buy a whole album anymore. You have to make an album that makes people think like, oh, I want to listen to this from start to finish. This has a point. This has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think, you know, albums that have done maybe especially well recently, like Arcade Fire, The Suburbs, or Daft Punk, you know, you feel like whether you like the music or not, there's a point to it. It was made to be listened to as an album. So I had the idea for that melody, and I wanted to do the melody in 2 different kind of arrangements. And I thought, listen, like I got Stevie Wonder to play. It's a once in a lifetime thing, so I might as well use it twice, you know.
All right. You hadn't had any plane like flying over London announcing your album like FX3 Indeed, you know?
No.
Yeah. Are you sad about it? I mean, you wanted a plane flying over London announcing.
What did he had? He had a plane just yelling my album is out?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you promoted it. Like, I mean, just like letting the music go, having great videos, doing the old way, you know, without any kind of weird thing to announce the album. But was it planned? I mean, you decided to go this way, or you considered other options?
I guess that, you know, I'm not gonna lie. Like people like Kanye, Daft Punk, Aphex Twins, I give them a lot of credit because they're great at thinking of concepts. And when the album comes out and, you know, we're not going to tell anyone, we're going to release it the next day, and all these genius marketing things. Like, for me, it's like making the music and making sure it's good is like enough of a challenge. Like I don't have a team of think tank around me. It's like I worked my ass off for 2 years just to make sure that this album is the best thing that I could do. And it's like, yeah, let's make a good video. Let's put it out. Let's play it on TV a couple times and make sure people like it. I mean, I wish I had some genius idea about that stuff sometimes, but I just don't. I should just like show up everywhere wearing a meat dress, and then people would talk about me all the time.
All right, but then it comes to the singles, and when you have a singles like you know, the one with Bruno Mars, everything like just, you know, just happens. And is it true that you did 45 takes for that song, for Uptown Funk, before it sounded properly as you wanted it?
Well, we had worked on it for a good 7 months, you know, because we had one night we all got together in the studio, me, Jeff, and Bruno, and we got the first verse, and then Bruno went on tour, and every time we get together, maybe once a month, like we'd try and finish the song, but it kind of never worked. Or we'd get a little part, but then we couldn't get the chorus. And then the whole point of a funk song is there is no chorus. There's no singing. There's no, because then it's disco, it's R&B. Funk has to be about the horn line or the hook. So Bruno came up with after a little while, he came up with that bass line, the do-do-do-do-do-do. Exactly. And that's kind of when the song really gelled. But at the end, I still had to get my guitar part. So we're in London, you know, the last thing to get the song finished, you know, the album I've been working on for a year and a half, the pressure's on because this song is the only way that, you know, I'm going to have a first single that really makes a big difference. So I tried to play the guitar part 40, 50 times. I just couldn't get anything that I liked. And we went out for lunch for a minute. And Jeff Basker, the producer, he's looked at me, he's like, dude, you don't look so good. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, go in the bathroom. So I look in the bathroom in the mirror and I'm all white, and all of a sudden I just faint and fall over, and I threw up all over the place, and they had to carry me out of the toilet. And I think all the pressure of trying to finish the album at that point had really gotten to me. But I went to Toronto 2 days later because Bruno was there doing a show, and I, you know, that's where I kind of was able to play the guitar part. I think it was like a psychological thing, obviously.
Wow. And uplifting songs like Uptown Funk has a dramatic story behind it.
Yeah, I guess
kind of a dramatic, you know.
I guess it was just like the pressure of wanting to get it right, and I think that, you know, it's great that it doesn't. You don't want it to sound like that, but you know, it's good to know a little blood, sweat, and tears went into it. Yeah,
you can write about many important musicians and singers. As a producer, you know secrets that are hidden like to us somehow. Is it true that years ago Adele came to you when she wasn't famous and asked you to produce her album, and she said that she would do anything to convince you? I mean, even bringing beers and coffee.
No, what happened was, I mean, the thing is that most of the people that I work with, you know, weren't famous in the beginning anyway. So, like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, obviously there was a time when Adele, even though it's hard to imagine, she wasn't famous, but she had come out to New York and we were working in the studio, and she didn't have to beg me to work. I heard, as soon as I heard her first demos, I knew I wanted to work with her. But she was in the radio station where I used to do my internet radio show, and I think she just offered to go out and get beers for everybody from the store. But there was a journalist from The Guardian that happened to be there at the time, so I guess it made it more funny or ironic.
Romanceable.
Yes.
All right. And what about like the night? I mean, we're talking about legends and memories. So what about like the night you won a Grammy, and you said that you can even remember because you were a bit high, and so like memories are a bit foggy.
I remember. I definitely remember. It was a really memorable, the whole day of it. I mean, I said that I was slightly hungover, but I definitely remember all of it. And the only thing that was a shame is that Amy, you know, she was in London because she couldn't get a visa, I think, to get in the country. So we were kind of celebrating apart, but it was still it was a night that I'll never ever forget, for sure.
All right. You still play many times. You still DJ many times. How many like DJ set gigs you do every year? You count them?
Well, I mean, I used to probably do 4 or 5 a week for, you know, half of my grown-up life, because that's how I used to, you know, pay the bills. But now I probably do maybe like 3 or 4 a month.
3 or 4 a month.
Something
Right.
like that.
Was it true that you DJ for celebrity weddings?
I mean,
is it funny?
I mean, I don't have like a business card that says DJ for celebrity weddings.
Is it expensive to have you as a wedding DJ?
No, really.
Not really.
Just like a taxi and a pizza.
All right.
Pretty easy.
Like a Wu-Tang album.
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Have you figured out what you prefer most?
I mean, there's something that's so much fun when you're in front of a great crowd. It could be 200 people in a basement, which is what I was doing last night. And you have an energy in the room. It's so instant. It's so much fun to take the crowd on that ride. And, you know, I come from the school of DJing where it's like, you know, it's skills and tricks and you're doing routines and catching people off with like some clever, you know, I don't know, mix from one thing to the other. It's great. And I don't think I'll ever get tired of playing my favorite new record out and feeling the rush of energy in a room. But I think at some point in your life, you're like, okay, do I want this immediate rush of energy of just like having this sync with the crowd, or am I trying to make something that maybe potentially someone will discover in 20, 30 years and enjoy? So I think as you get older, maybe it just feels like that's the more respectable thing to do, but I'm not sure. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
All right.
I really don't.
All right. Just like a few questions more, then we're gonna let you go. Can you do me the face when you look like to the monitor and you've seen how the amounts of views you have on Spotify for the last song? Let me. All right, that's it. That's an impressive amount.
I mean, it's really insane, and you know, a lot of it has to do with the song. A lot of it has to do with the video that was, you know, directed by Bruno and Cameron Duddy. It's like, it's something. My dad said it to me. He was like, you know, a couple months ago, but he said, yeah, I don't know what it is. He's like, even when I'm in a shit mood, like that song just makes me happy. Like there's something about the song and the energy of the video and all that stuff that, you know, makes people want to watch it or drawn to it. And you know, it's incredible. I'm definitely not complaining. It's really something that's amazing.
So next time you're planning to have like the President Obama as a guest for a song?
I did watch some footage of him singing "Let's Stay Together" by Al Green, and if you go on YouTube and Google Obama singing "Let's Stay Together," you're like, oh shit, like he can really sing. That would be kind of cool.
All right. Do you Google like your name sometimes, like searching for haters or that kind of stuff?
Of course I do. Everybody does.
And you have fun?
No, it's terrible.
All
it's
right.
like because you only look for the bad ones. You don't really care about the good ones. It's like a car accident when you're driving by and you can't look away. But for some reason, you just do it. It's just like whoosh, just like whipping yourself on the back. So I mean, for whatever reason, I'd like to lie and say that I don't, but you know, everybody I know does that.
What's the worst thing you read about you?
There's so much. I mean, just whatever you would normally think. Though.
All right, but love is in the air, and you know, we would like to say we love you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Ciao, sono Mark Ronson. Stai ascoltando Babylon su Radio 2.
That's amazing, man.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. You've been really kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.